I want to take a minute to tell you guys about our Patreon page and all of the great stuff that we offer for our pledges. As you guys know, Sleeper Wire is a charity working towards the prevention and treatment of chronic Lyme disease. As a Patreon pledge, here's what you can get. The Draft Genius Draft Kit PDF with rankings for all sorts of leagues, priority answers on the live mail sack shows, early access to the Sunday Blitz every Sunday morning during the season, the full Draft Genius Draft Kit, which includes rankings, articles, draft strategies, expert opinions, and more, a Sleeper Wire mug, a Sleeper Wire t-shirt, automatic entry to a listener league, and automatic entry to the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am. Your generosity will help make a difference. Visit www.patreon.com/sleeperwire for more details.
3 hours of heavy metal. 3 hours of mock drafting. Together it becomes Mock Metal Monday. Mock Metal Monday is a 3-hour live broadcast on the Sleeper Wire Mixler channel and also Facebook Live. Come and join us to mock draft to get you ready for your fantasy football season while we listen to some of the heaviest, hardest metal. Follow us on SleeperBot in the Sleeper Wire channel or join our Facebook group, the Sleeper Wire Fantasy Football Club, to get all the times, draft rooms, and links.
I'm ready to run.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Show. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me today I have one of my wonderful co-hosts, Lucky Lucas, but that is not all. We've also got Jason Moore of the Fantasy Footballers on the show today. You can find him on Twitter at JasonFFL. Jason, what's going on, man?
Man, so much going on. I'm going to be up in some of your guys' neck of the woods soon. I'm a little sad because, I'm not the Professor or Lucky. I don't have one of these cool intro names to my name. I gotta be like Jealous Jason.
Jealous Jason. I love it. So how you been, man?
Oh, been great. Like I said, we're on the Fantasy for the People tour coming up, so we've been recording fantasy podcasts left, right, and center. So we're closing out the week here with you.
You know what? We are honored. So thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah,
well, we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna kick it off here with an intro question, like we generally do, and usually we keep it to fantasy football. But there is something that I hear you guys talk about on your show quite a bit, and that is food.
Now we're talking about my wheelhouse. Get rid of this fantasy nonsense.
Exactly. Yep. We're actually just a fantasy food show instead of fantasy football. No. So you guys bring up food all the time, which I think is great. So here's our question. To you guys, I'll let you take it first, Jason. What is your all-time favorite dessert? We'll call it your fantasy dessert.
Oh man. All-time fantasy dessert.
Yep.
I mean, desserts are like my specialty, but Look, I have to go something banana. Probably bananas Foster, something where you got the great mixing of flavors. I think there's a place in Arizona called the Melting Pot. It's like fondue, and they had this bananas Foster dessert where you've got this white chocolate and banana and Irish cream. It's so good. And then you dip other delicious desserts in. So it's like I get double the dessert.
Yeah, banana is probably my favorite flavor for a dessert. Melting Pot, actually, it must be a chain. There's one in Indy, close to where I used to live, down in Indianapolis, actually. It's really, really good. I think, Lucas, what about you? I'll go last.
Mine's not so fancy as Jason's, but you can't go wrong with an apple crumb pie. And it tastes even better around Thanksgiving when you're sitting there and you got your sweatpants on and your drawstring and stretching them out a little bit and putting down that second slice after a second helping of turkey. But I'm going to have to go apple crumb.
I'm going to tell you, I love these good takes. I'm sitting here usually next to Mike Wright, who has the worst food takes in the world, especially dessert. Apple crumb, banana, what else we got?
So, Lucas, real quick, do you heat it up, put some ice cream on top, or do you eat it cold?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
and I'm fine with just the vanilla plain ice cream with it.
That's all you need.
Pretty great contrast.
Yep. And, I was thinking about this. I think I'm going to go with tiramisu, actually.
Tiramisu.
3 for 3.
Big fan.
Delicious.
Yep.
It's all right.
Well, welcome to the show, Hus.
Hey, Hus.
Hey, I've got some cheesecake. I like to drizzle. I like to drizzle some chocolate and some caramel. I like to go to I'm going to be fancy like Jason here, and I like to go to Bonefish Sundays with the fam, and I usually order the cheesecake. It's kind of boring, but at the same time with the drizzle,
There we go.
it's good.
Hey, you like what you like.
Hey,
Well, welcome into the show, Prophet Hus. I didn't put you in the intro because I didn't know if you were going to make it due to some technical difficulties, but hey, I'm glad we got you in here.
glad to be on.
All right, let's go ahead and kick it off with some news here. All right, starting off, the Raiders have fears that Martavis Bryant is once again going to be suspended, so it's certainly looking like the Steelers got the better part of that trade during the draft. He may have failed another drug test. I haven't heard any complete details yet, though. Jason, you have any updates on that?
No, there's no full details out yet. It could have been as simple as he didn't show up for one of the appointments.
Right.
Either way, I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if that's all it is, he will get a suspension based on the people that are actually reporting this. It's weird because on one hand, there's absolutely nothing to it. There's not even a source saying, yes, they're being suspended. It's just these weird, everyone fears a suspension is looming. But on the other hand, the actual source writing the article is usually a very reliable beat reporter. He is inside, and I sincerely doubt that he would ever put out that kind of a speculation unless the vibe was, yeah, Martavis Bryant's being suspended. We just don't have the details yet. If he is suspended based on his last one, it's probably not going to be a short-term thing.
No, and if he failed a drug test due to marijuana again, isn't it a lifetime ban or is it a 2-year suspension?
I believe it's indefinite, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean that he cannot apply for reinstatement again in the future, but it probably will be lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Justin Blackman's still not in the league, so yeah.
It's a sad situation. It's a shame to see such potential washed out because of struggles with addiction or mental health. It's one of those things we always want to mock and joke about, but in truth, it's just really sad.
Yeah,
It is.
certainly is. So we'll keep you guys updated when we have more news about that. But kicking us back to fantasy, not that we don't care, we don't want to give that impression or anything, but I do want to ask a question here. Does this do anything for Jordy Nelson fantasy-wise for you?
Yeah, I mean, more of the targets will go his direction. It bumps him up a little bit. I still feel like for where he's being drafted because of his name, he's more than likely not going to return that value. And then there's some sleeper candidates. Ryan Switzer is getting some buzz about maybe being more involved. I mean, the targets have to go somewhere. They're not, they're not going to stop throwing the ball. So it does benefit other people. It's a little too early to tell exactly who yet.
And he's currently got a mid-8th round ADP and a 12-team PPR. So I think I would be willing to take a shot in the 8th round.
Oh yeah.
Willing to take a flyer there. Moving on here, the Tampa Bay Bucks signed Ronald Jones to his 4-year rookie contract, so he's good to go there. We've got a little bit of hype talk here. There was a report that just said the connection between Pat Mahomes and Sammy Watkins is real. That's all it said. I don't know what we can really read into that. But Andy Reid did also say that Mahomes has been impressive adjusting to the blitz. Hype, rookies, they all look great at this point in training camp. Browns offensive coordinator Todd Haley said that Tyrod Taylor is the quote-unquote leader of the Browns. So do you see him losing that job this season, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% see him losing the job. You just don't draft a guy with the first overall pick to have him sit for a year. It doesn't happen, and it's not going to happen this year. Look, the Browns on paper have gotten a lot better. It's great. I'm excited for the city of Cleveland to have some real genuine excitement. I mean, their tools are there, but look, that we haven't seen it yet. This is still a team that's won one game in the last 2 years, and Tyrod Taylor is not the answer, is not the future. They just spent the 101 in the NFL draft on Baker Mayfield. I'm more on the side that I think Baker's going to be there, week 4, week 5. Some people, I would say the majority of people think Tyrod will last longer. If they lose a couple games, how do you not get your first overall pick in the game?
We also saw this with Houston last year. We were having this exact debate with Watson, and then we saw him at halftime in game 1. And that paid
the same
dividends.
thing though, Lucas? Like the the same way. I actually think it could be the same way, and it'll be really surprising, I think, for us, because we are expecting Tyrod to play a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tyrod starts the season, and he could come out and play well. He has some pretty great targets to throw to, a lot better than what he's had in Buffalo.
Right.
So he could come out and do fine, but I do think that Baker Mayfield, he's just a born winner, and we're going to see him out there slinging the rock.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrod is infinitely better than Tom Savage, so he'll get more than a half unless
Right.
it's injury.
Right.
Yep. Moving on here, Jaguars.com expects Austin Seferian-Jenkins to be an integral part of the offense. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this. I just wanted to ask you a quick question here. Where do you have ASJ ranked, Jason?
I've got him just, I think, tight end 13, just out of the tight end 1, and he is an intriguing later prospect.
Yep.
He strikes you as a guy that, because of all the things he's gone through, is like 28, 29 years old. The guy's a young, high draft pick
Right.
guy who's got his life turned around in the right direction. So, yeah, I think he's a worthy late round consideration.
Yeah, I got to agree here. I have him not, so I have him like around 15. But, I mean, he's hanging out with Bortles. He's like asking him what he likes, all this stuff. They're spending a lot of time together. I think that means something. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, though, because Bortles never really used tight ends other than, Mercedes Lewis a couple times, if you were a user. But other than that, he hasn't really used the tight ends. He has a lot of wide receivers that he likes to throw to. So it's interesting. I'm not willing to move up so high. But, yeah, about 15. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks tight end 1, though. I mean, he's got the potential for sure.
Robinson and Hearns being gone, though, it's some targets that can get spread around for sure. Moving on here, Sean McDermott said that Zay Jones, who had that knee surgery, is expected to be ready for training camp. No word yet on any type of suspension, if there's going to be one, at least not that I'm aware of. I know that all criminal charges were dropped, but hoping that everything's going to be okay for him. And then we have a couple more rookie quarterback news. McDermott also said that Josh Allen, who was the number 7 overall pick, is going to open training camp as the third-team quarterback. And Todd Bowles said the same thing about Sam Darnold opening camp as the third-team QB, which neither one of those is really surprising.
Right.
You don't want to, you want your rookie to at least learn a little bit behind the starter.
Yeah, and you've got the fake make them earn it thing where it's like, you like that's going to motivate them. I promise you, if that's what you think is going to motivate them to be a good quarterback, then they will fail if they're not self-motivated. I think with Darnold, who is a good quarterback prospect, some of him winding up, in third place, I think is more drumming up potential trade value for Teddy Two Gloves.
Yep, I like that take.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing reports of Teddy being, turning a lot of heads, and there's apparently reports that he might start, So, yeah, I mean, they've got a good amount of quarterbacks. Obviously, they're going to have McCown, teach, but Teddy, yeah, I mean, he's definitely got that potential right now, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that. That's a good take.
All right, guys, before we move on to our next segment, I want to remind you that the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am is back. This is our 3rd season and the biggest one yet. We've got guys like Marcus Grant, Matt Harmon, Jake Seeley, Pat Fitzmaurice, and more. We're also going to be running more listener leagues this season as well. Stay tuned until the end to hear more details about how to enter. Moving on here, I want to talk about some sleepers, because that's what we had been talking about when we were messaging you, Jason, talking about some sleepers here. But, a lot of times we talk about, guys that are going 8th, 10th round. No, I want to talk about guys who are maybe even going undrafted, end of the round guys, or end of the draft guys, rather. And let's do 1 wide receiver and 1 running back. So let's kick it off with wide receivers, and you can kick us off here.
Sure. So, this wide receiver, he is currently being drafted in the 14th round. When I think of his name, I think, well, this isn't a super late guy, an undrafted guy. This is a guy that should be in the 8th, 9th round, but he's not, and he's not in paid best ball leagues. He's not on fantasy calculator, and that is Geronimo Allison. Geronimo Allison is currently the number 2 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers. You could say, oh no, that's Randall Cobb, but as far as formation, Cobb is the slot receiver. If there's 2 wide receiver sets, Cobb's going to be on the sideline, and it's going to be Geronimo Allison in there. Good things have been said about him, and on average, if you look over the last basically since Aaron Rodgers has been a starter, his second wide receiver averages the wide receiver 15. I mean, maybe he is moving into the Devontae Adams role as Devontae Adams moves into Jordy. So, look, maybe Jamon Moore takes it over. Maybe Geronimo Allison doesn't do it. Maybe it is Randall Cobb. But when you're talking about the 14th round or undrafted, the other guys there don't have the potential to be a borderline, a wide receiver 15 overall. You're talking about, maybe they'll give me some good weeks. That's the guy I want to take my shot on, because if you're wrong, whatever, cut him, move on. If you're right, I mean, you've got a gold mine to help you win.
Yeah, I like that take. I almost had him as mine, but I switched at the last minute, so I'm glad we didn't have the same guy here. Certainly the wide receiver 2 for Aaron Rodgers needs to be a guy that, he has to be owned.
Yeah.
Sure.
One quick thing on that, though, is that they finally have a tight end that can catch the ball in Jimmy Graham. So does Jimmy Moore come in as more of a wide receiver to absorb those targets, or not?
No. No, I mean, Jimmy Graham, if you watch him run or jog last season, you know that he's lost a step. Now, you're exactly right. He can catch. I mean, he is as good as it gets when it comes to catching the ball. And down near the goal line, if the running game's not working, I've got Jimmy Graham slated for 9 touchdowns, which he could very well outproduce that. Wow. But I don't have him with a lot of yards. Between the 20s, that Jimmy Graham is gone. So I don't believe that he's going to be the one coming in taking over the 1,400 expected yards that are missing from Jordy.
Yeah, I'm not a big Jimmy Graham fan this year. So, but that's a discussion for another time. Hus, what about your wide receiver?
Wide receiver, I actually didn't put a wide receiver here. I actually put 2 running backs because I don't like following, I don't follow the rules ever. I was going to use Keelan Cole, though, now that I knew it was 2 wide receivers. Well, 1 wide receiver and 1 running back. But it looks like Lucas has him. So I want to just give you Buck Allen since he is kind of like a wide receiver on that team. He's kind of forgotten about. He had 60 targets last year. Danny Wood had 39, and he's jobless. So, I mean, he's going to probably pick up where he left off in the beginning of the season, not where he ended off, I should say. Because, I mean, as soon as Woodhead was healthy, they were like, all right, let's see what we got here. And they kind of just relegated Buck Allen to nothing. They started not using him. But, I mean, if you look at early on in the season, he was valuable. I mean, I think in the PPR, he's definitely has standalone value. So, I mean, I didn't give you a wide receiver, but I think he could see, close to 80 targets, I think, which is saying something, I mean, they have that lack there. I mean, they don't have much wide receiver depth there. So I could see Buck Allen being flexed out. He's shown he's capable of doing it. So, yeah. Buck Allen.
All right, nice wide receiver there. Lucas, give me a wide receiver.
Who's kind of already commented on him a little bit. Keelan Cole for the Jaguars. He's the 90th wide receiver right now on Fantasy Pros, which is just absurd to me. He averaged 17.8 yards per reception last year, and he was also the 5th. He scored the 5th most points of any wide receiver from Week 13 on. I think people are sleeping on him, and with Hearns and Robinson gone, I don't like Marquise Lee. I do like Westbrook, but I think Cole is really the guy to have there as a sleeper.
Yep.
That's really all I have to say.
Is that the standard, Lucas? Because I thought I had PPR numbers. He finished second, I thought.
That was standard. Yep.
Yeah, so week 13 through 16, I mean, the guy was like just right behind Hopkins. I mean, he finished above Thomas, Allen. He was he won you. He won you a championship. He helped you win the championship.
He did. Weeks 13 through 16, he either had 100 yards or a touch, if not both.
Yeah, I love the Keelan Cole pick. I mean, other guys come in and you were, is it Dante Moncrief? Is it this? Maybe it's the guy that's already done it, who exploded as a rookie. Why go
with
away
Bortles.
from him?
With Blake Bortles.
Hey, Bortles is finished as a QB1 2 years in a row, right?
I know, it's just the consistency is just not there.
Right. I mean, his defense should help him. His defense should certainly help him. And, I mean, if you look at that team, I mean, they're just that's a talented bunch.
Yeah, and they have a pretty easy strength of schedule, I believe, also, so that doesn't hurt.
All right, and my guy for wide receiver is a guy who is going in the 15th round currently, and someone who I think is being super undervalued and is going to make his quarterback even better this year, and that is Paul Richardson, who's going in the 15th round. Alex Smith had the fastest wide receiver in the league last year with Tyreek Hill, who ran like a 4.24 40. Paul Richardson is almost as fast. He ran a 4.4 flat, and he's got better hands with Josh Doxson out there now as well, and Jamison Crowder. It's going to open up the field. I think Paul Richardson is going to be that deep threat, and we saw Alex Smith feel comfortable throwing the deep ball to Tyreek Hill, and even the underneath stuff to Tyreek Hill. Paul Richardson is still a burner, and he can take that to the house. He scored 6 touchdowns last year, which was pretty good because he only got 44 catches. And, he was the only wide receiver aside from Doug Baldwin in the Seahawks offense that really did anything. So I really like Paul Richardson this year. I think I have him ranked above Crowder and Doxson. I think he's going to be really, really good. I think he's going to be a great value.
Well, he certainly got paid. So,
all right, let's move to running backs. Jason, who is your running back deep sleeper?
Yeah, so I've kind of got 2 guys here. I was thinking about going with Robert Turbin. And then I remembered that he's Robert Turbin. And so that's kind of a problem. I know he got a nice Roto-World blurb saying that he might be the 3-down back. And you do. You want the 3-down back for the Indianapolis Colts. Look, last year he averaged 2.3 yards a carry for those Colts. If he's the 3-down back, it's probably not going to matter. So instead, I'm actually going to go with one that hurts me a lot. Like, it really hurts me to say this. I wish I was alone in this room. Unfortunately, my producer, Brooks, is nearby. He's going to hear it. Look, I am a diehard Rashad Penny truther. I think he is great. But
I love this.
Chris Carson is a completely forgotten man. Roto-World just wrote up a blurb on the fact that Rashad Penny appears to be picking up pass blocking, and Pete Carroll said some really nice stuff about it, and that's what they picked up. But in the article from Bob Condata, if you read the whole thing, very good beat reporter from Seattle. Let me read a paragraph from this article. It starts with the title, Rashad Penny appears to be picking up pass blocking, and then it says, Chris Carson was maybe the standout player of the Seahawks off-season, showing he is fully recovered from the ankle injury that ended last season and looking even more assured and confident in his second NFL season. If the season began today, he would likely be Seattle's starting tailback. And so, that sucks. That line dropped my jaw because I am I believe in Rashad Penny. So I hope that this is a terrible sleeper pick in Chris Carson. But it's a guy that's going undrafted. Nobody's picking up Chris Carson. I mean, you can sometimes find him on dynasty waivers, and he very well could be, to start the year, the starter on a team that very much every indication is that they want to run the ball, not just with what's coming out of their mouth, but everything that they've spent money on, their draft capital in this last NFL draft, the new offensive coordinator change. Everything says they're going to get back to running the ball. If Chris Carson is the starter, then great. You got him with your last pick, and he's a steal. If he's not, then, again, cut him, move on.
I dig it. Only because I don't like drafting running backs early because they bust so often. So I dig it.
All right, Hus, you gave us a running back last time, so we're going to skip over you, go to Lucas. Give me your running back.
I got another running back.
Hus will come to you in a sec. I have a few of them, but my deepest one out of these is going to be Donta Foreman for Houston. And for a couple of different reasons. I know he's coming back from the Achilles injury, and I know we need to see Deshaun Watson back to form and some other things go right, but Lamar Miller is not the answer for that team. And they have everything else in place when they are healthy. And if you just use your eyes to watch the football game, he was clearly superior to Lamar Miller's running. Right now, he's the 42nd running back off the board in Fantasy Pros. I think he comes back strong from the Achilles injury. He's still young. Reports have been somewhat promising on this. And it was really terrible to watch him go out because he was averaging like 6 yards a touch in his final game and had 2 touchdowns, and he had just ripped off that long run down the sideline when he got injured. So I was pretty disappointed to see that because he very easily could have supplanted Lamar Miller for the rest of the season following that game.
Oh, he would have. Deonta Foreman is so talented. I worry about the injury because it's one that has wrecked people's career before. But if he comes back healthy, he's a top 24 running back, for sure. If he was healthy, there's no way that they're going to run Lamar Miller ahead of him if he's healthy.
Yeah. So my second running back is Gio Bernard. Gio is only 13 points shy of being RB2. The average is not much. It's like a point or something like that. Despite his low usage, Gio still ranked 4th among running backs in targets and receptions since 2013. I know that stat's kind of like Dez Bryant-esque of last year, right? When people were saying, oh, Dez, he had the most touchdowns, right? And then he just dropped off the cliff. But, I mean, they haven't fixed the line, despite addressing it somewhat in the draft. Amid latest reports mixing, they're trying to make him a complete back, suggesting he's not quite there. Not to mention Mixon only doled out 3.7 yards a carry. I don't really like the the yards per carry too much, but it's there. And Gio's 4.2. So he's going nearly undrafted, and considering the lack of pass catchers there in Cincy, he should have standalone value in PPR leagues. So give me Gio late round, and then he's also the handcuff. So give me Gio.
A couple other guys I really just want to throw out there real quick for people to keep an eye on is Chris Thompson, who was a top 10.
You are not throwing out deep sleepers here.
Yeah, I mean,
look on Fantasy Pros right now. He is the 34th. He is the 34th ranked running back on Fantasy Pros, and Rex Burkhead is the 35th.
Yeah, he's going in the 7th round, and Deonta Foreman is going in the 10th. These are not deep sleepers.
And I'm snatching him right before anybody anyway, so everybody knows my Chris Thompson love.
Jason, you're the only one who could follow the rules, so I appreciate
it.
You did it. You did it. All right, Chris Thompson. Who else, real quick, Lucas?
Rex Burkhead.
Okay, there we go. We talked about Rex Burkhead. Hus and I did on actually, was it yesterday? We went on Jake Seeley's On Target podcast and talked about Burkhead. So that was pretty cool. And then my running back deep sleeper is someone who, once again, I think is being criminally ignored. He's going crazy late, 16th round on Fantasy Football Calculator for a 12-team PPR, so basically undrafted, and that is Frank the Tank Gore. 260-plus carries every single season with the Colts, 261 last year in his age 34 season. He's played all 16 games for the last 7 years. He's 35 now, so he might not be the workhorse like he's been his whole career, but Frank Gore is not just going to be a backup to spell Kenyon Drake occasionally. Drake also has a, nagging injury history. Frank Gore does not. The Dolphins know that he's still a good, solid running back who is a great pass blocker and a decent pass catcher as well. He's going to be involved, and for a guy that is getting, basically going undrafted right now, I think that's wrong. Frank Gore should absolutely be drafted in every single league.
Yeah, if I can chime in here, from the past and the future, we had to pre-record episodes this week for next week while we're traveling. Frank Gore will be, spoiler alert, one of my value picks next week. I mean,
love it.
He's just a guy that's, in the last 10 years, including 4 years over the age of 30, he hasn't finished lower than the RB20. So yeah, the value is there. His upside is definitely not what it once was, but value-wise, he's worth a pick.
Yeah, and the fact that he's 35 does not bother me at all.
Bothers me a little, but
last year, look, we did it at 34 and 33 and 32.
Yeah, he's built a little different, Emmitt Smith type body,
cut from a different cloth.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and move on here. I want to take a quick minute to tell you guys about our Patreon page and all the great stuff that we are offering for our pledges. As you guys know, Sleeper Wire is a charity working towards the prevention and treatment of chronic Lyme disease. As a Patreon, here's what you get. The Draft Genius Draft Kit PDF with rankings for all sorts of leagues, priority answers on the live mail sack shows, early access to the Sunday Blitz every Sunday morning during the season, the full Draft Genius Draft Kit, which includes rankings, articles, draft strategies, expert opinions, and more, a Sleeper Wire mug, a Sleeper Wire t-shirt, and you get automatic entry to a listener league where we're giving away a signed jersey courtesy of Pristine Auction, and automatic entry to the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am. Your generosity is going to help us make a difference. Visit patreon.com/sleeperwire for more details.
It's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff. Right. I got carpal tunnel typing all of that out. Last segment that we're going to do here, and we're going to, we each got 4 players that we need to talk about, so I don't want to talk in depth about each one of these guys. I know Lucas Hus is going to be hard for you. It's going to be difficult to cut you off, but figured since we have 2 people on the show whose last name is Moore, Jason Moore and myself, Chris Moore, we talk about sleepers, we talk about busts, we talk about values in the draft, we talk about deep sleepers, we talk about guys we absolutely want and guys that, we're not going to have these guys on any of our teams this year. But you know what we don't talk about? Those just middle of the ground. Like, yeah, I'm kind of indifferent to these guys' players. We don't talk about that very often. So we're going to do a segment called Moore's Bores. So we've got one guy at each position who we don't have any strong feelings. We're just kind of indifferent about. And we're going to start with quarterbacks here. And it doesn't need to be a super long explanation. I know I don't want to run us short on time or anything like that. I'm going to kick it off. Quarterback, my guy I'm indifferent about, Matt Ryan.
The Moors are in agreement. That's my guy, too.
Is it? Awesome.
It is.
Awesome.
Don't care.
Yeah, with all the guys going around him, and even after him, Jared Goff I would take over Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Phillip Rivers, probably Dak Prescott, Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger. Matt Ryan, I can just take him or leave him. If he's there and he's the best, okay. But, yeah. He's just Matt Ryan. That's all.
He's a good quarterback. He should finish around, I don't know, quarterback 13 or so. He's being drafted about, I don't know, quarterback 13 or so. So whatever.
Yeah. No,
he's exactly what you expect him to be.
That's exactly right. So I guess we know who your quarterback was.
Yeah.
Lucas, what about you?
Well, mine was going to be Andrew Luck, but I do have some stronger feelings on that. So we're just going to X that one off. And my bore is going to be Marcus Mariota. I just don't see it being a very high-powered offense, and I'm neither excited or, have strong feelings to stay away from. He's just kind of a guy I think will be there, but you don't want him as your starter.
Them fighting words. I love Mariota this year, but I know the other guys from the fantasy footballers are much more where you're at. But just let it be known right now, Marcus Mariota is going to have a great season.
Where do you have him ranked?
I've got him 11.
I don't think that's too ridiculous. It's not like you got him top 8 or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the whole point difference, 2 points or something like that on average. So, between like 11 and like a 16 or something like that. So, yeah, it's not too – you can shift all of those guys around at that point.
Yeah, for where he's being drafted, he's a guy you can get with your last pick, sometimes going undrafted. People just don't care about him. But, to each their own, he very well – maybe he's the guy we saw last year. I just don't believe it.
And he's been hyped up the last couple of seasons as a QB1 as well. So maybe people are a little bit – they drafted him that way and he just didn't perform that way. Could be some recency bias there as well.
Well, I'm just going from the beginning when him and Jameis both came out, and there was just so much hype with Mariota. He hasn't thrown an interception all of the offseason yet. This is a great sign. And, just ever since then, he's just never lived up to it.
I still think it's great. They were back-to-back picks, right? First and second
in
that draft. I still think it's pretty awesome that both Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota threw their first touchdown passes to Titans.
Wow, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, Winston threw a pick 6 in that first game against the Titans.
I believe that was his first throw of his career.
Yeah, it was. All right, who's your quarterback?
This is not popular at all. But Timmy freaking Brady. I know it's not popular. And part of this is not drafting quarterbacks early, but I'm not drafting Tom Brady. He lost you week 1. Yeah, 10 points. He lost you week 5, 12 points. likely week 16. He killed you in the playoffs. Week 13, he had 8 points. Week 14, he had 9 points. Week 15, 15 points. Week 16, 15 points. Now, I'm not telling you don't draft Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady, but I won't be taking him. He's another year older, and I think we all remember the legend, Peyton Manning's cliff. I mean, I'm staying away from the guy. He doesn't have Julian Edelman around for first, 4 games or so. I'm just not taking – I'm staying away from Tom Brady.
All right, let's move into running backs. Let's keep it in the same order. I'll kick it off here as well. My running back I'll take him. I'll leave him. Doesn't really matter. Carlos Hyde. And I'm guessing that's Jason's as well because we think alike.
I can see that, but no, I've got someone different.
Yeah, he's gonna be the starter at the beginning of the season, but they do have so many weapons, at least on paper, as we mentioned, earlier. Especially Duke Johnson signing that 3-year extension, and Nick Chubb being there, and Carlos Hyde with that 3-year contract. There's a lot in that background, and yeah, Hyde's gonna be the starter to start the season. I would not mind him being on my team, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to reach for him. He's just there. What about you, Jason? Who's your running back?
Yeah, so, for my running back, I was looking – the guys that I'm indifferent about, because I have pretty strong opinions on most everybody, they were all so late that they just didn't matter. So I took a little bit of a different approach, and I went with a guy that I keep getting hot and cold on. I can't make up my mind if I really do like him or if I really don't like him. So in that sense, I'm pretty neutral on Jordan Howard this year.
That's a good one.
It's just like the offense is going to improve with Matt Nagy, and things are going to open up, and that should be good for him. But he's not a good pass catcher, and reports of maybe he's game dependent. So I could see it either way. So I think where he's being drafted is about right.
Man, I love me some Howard, and he's going late, I feel like, but I guess not for you. Yeah, I mean, I've seen him go in the 4th round. Actually, when I did a mock, and I was like, what the heck is he doing there?
That's super late for me on every other day and early on every. That's the problem with me. I am straight bipolar on Jordan Howard.
I mean, it's fair given his numbers. All right,
I mean, we'll have you back on the show tomorrow, and we're going to ask you the same thing.
Yeah.
Lucas, what about your running back?
So my guy, honestly, I just feel like this guy he's going too high. My running back is Jerick McKinnon.
No.
I think he did some decent things for the Vikings last year, but I don't see him as a 3-down back. He's 5'9", 210 pounds. I do like San Francisco this year, but Jerick McKinnon's been going in the 2nd round. And you have guys like Alex Collins going at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th, which to me is just absurd. So Jerick McKinnon is someone I'm just kind of indifferent of and won't have him on my team in the 2nd round.
And again, is this a standard you're talking or PPR?
I'm talking in general, just a guy that you're indifferent about. That's all.
Jerick McKinnon's that guy for me. If he was in the 5th, I think I would take him, but I don't want him as my RB1.
Yeah.
I don't want him as my RB1.
Hus, you're running back.
It's gonna be Mixon. I mean, for the same reasons, I was talking up Gio, and they added another guy, and he's still working. They still didn't fix the line. Not in love with Mixon. I don't get all the hype about him. He had one great game last year. Other than that, he was garbage. So I mean, I'm not taking Mixon high. I'd rather have Jordan Howard. People are taking Mixon over Jordan Howard.
Mixon has that X factor too, though.
What X factor? I mean, what has he done? Forget Jordan Howard's has 12 100-yard rushing games. What has Mixon done?
I mean, how many under 40-yard games did Howard have, though? That was the issue, is that he would either pop off or he would do nothing. He was like the Tom Brady of running backs.
I guess. And so I'm just not going to have him on my team. He's such at the 3rd round, and he's going in the 2nd round. I've seen him go in the 2nd round, actually. It's just way too high. I'm not going to have him on any of my teams.
Let's move into wide receivers. So the wide receiver I don't really have strong opinions about, Emmanuel Sanders. If he's there, I'll take him. But, he's 31 years old. Demaryius Thomas is still the one on that team. Case Keenum, I don't see him putting together as good of a year as he did last year. I think it was a dream season. I think he got out and signed a contract at the exact right time that he needed to. Emmanuel Sanders, I'd take him as my wide receiver 4. But not super exciting. Jason, your wide receiver.
Yeah, for me, it's Golden Tate. Golden Tate's been a guy that in the past I've really liked. And look, he's going to finish this season with 90 receptions. So that's a guy that is fine to have. I'm happy to have him on my team. The problem with Golden Tate is the curious case of Golden Tate. He is one of the only players that I know of in the last 5 years or so that is a high volume, super inconsistent player. The only other example I can even think of is last year Julio Jones had a ton of targets, had a ton of receptions, but at the end of the year he had so many games that wrecked your face and you lost. That's what Golden Tate has done, not just last year and the year before. We've got 3 years running now of him being a high volume but very inconsistent fantasy producer. So it's like, I'm happy to have him on my team. I'm not ecstatic to have him on my team. I think his draft price is okay. So he's meh.
Yeah, I do really like Golden Tate, and I like the game. He can win you games. He can put up, the 9 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown or something like that. But the inconsistency, you're absolutely right. If you go running back, and he's your wide receiver 1, you are going to be in for a rough season. Lucas, your wide receiver.
I have 2 that are kind of back-to-back in the rankings. It's Amari Cooper and Allen Robinson.
Love it.
Both of them to me are just kind of mad. And in particular, Robinson, 3 years ago, he was great. 2 years ago, he was terrible. And then last year, obviously, he got injured. He's now with not really, in my eyes, a better quarterback than what he's had in Trubisky. I'm not a truther. I don't think he's very good, honestly. And I'm not sure Allen Robinson is ever going to be back to what he once was.
Yeah, he's kind of in that group of guys where I just give me one of them, doesn't matter who, and that's with the Diggs, Alshon, Juju, Cooper, Robinson, Demaryius Thomas.
Give me Alshon Jeffrey all day, or give me Marvin Jones all day. Give me Jarvis Landry all day, and all those guys are going. All those guys are going later than Allen Robinson. Every single one of those guys are going later than Allen Robinson.
You're right about that, though. That's true. I want no parts of Allen Robinson on my teams.
Jason, you a big Robinson fan?
I think he's a great meh candidate. I don't usually like when wide receivers in free agency change teams. I mean, there are examples where it does work out, but if you just play the odds and the probabilities, more often than not, it doesn't work out for the wide receiver to produce at expectations of where their draft value is. That being said, I do love that he is the clear-cut number 1 target on a Matt Nagy-led offense. So yeah, no, I'm pretty meh with Allen Robinson.
Who's?
Yeah, for sure.
Which wide receiver? Are you
Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker. The guy he just seems, at least by the reports that we just constantly hear, and just by your eyes as well, like the guy's apparently kind of lazy, it seems like, or just disinterested. He's not interested in being the best player out there. It doesn't seem. Kenny Stills is going to be the number 1 there. The big Kenny Stills fan, you guys know from like way back, loves Kenny Stills. I don't think Parker's going to be the guy there. They're going to try to, have him. They're going to force, try to make him the guy. But very, very much meh on Devontae Parker. If I get him late, I grab him, if late, but I'm not reaching for him. I'm taking him as like a 4th, 5th receiver, and he's not going to be on any of my teams.
Yeah, he's the guy that I haven't been very high on. All 3 seasons I haven't liked him at all. I do have him in our draft kit this year as a breakout candidate for really the only reason that is if he's going to break out. If he's going to break out, it's got to be this season.
Right.
So that's really the only reason why. Let's go ahead and move to tight ends, though. Last position that we will talk about. Jordan Reed for me. I know he's got huge potential. I also know he's got huge injury risk. I am not going to take Jordan Reed to be my, tight end 1. I would love to have him on my team if I could draft him, near the end of the draft, which he's probably not going to fall that far. I'd like to have him as my tight end 2 if I was going to go with 2 tight ends. But where he's going right now, huge potential, huge injury risk, meh.
Well, for me, I picked this was the easiest one because this is the mehest player.
Yeah, I
that
know.
has,
There was like 30 players you could have.
I mean,
Right.
the player that I've been the most meh about forever, and it's no different this year, despite my love for Marcus Mariota, is Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker's good. He's not great. I mean, he will help you get close to the playoffs or get in the playoffs and lose, whichever your preference is, because he's okay. And you're going to pay an okay draft price for him. But he doesn't have the potential to finish as a differentiator in the position, but he's going to be involved. So, I mean, he's just the most average player of all time.
Which is weird to say about a guy who's like a top 5 tight end for the past 4 straight seasons.
Yeah, the guy's reception-wise is... Didn't he tie with like Kelsey with the receptions or something like that, or like right behind or third? Maybe
no, he was tied with Ertz.
Tied with Ertz, yeah. So, I mean, I love Delaney Walker.
He's a guy who finishes top 5 but doesn't feel like it.
Right,
such
exactly.
He's a guy. You just throw around your arm, your chest, and he's that nice blanket for Marcus Mariota. I love him.
Well, he'll be a nice 34-year-old blanket for Mariota this year.
Very nice. He keeps you warm.
Lucas, give me your tight end.
Mine was Tyler Eifert. I actually have a pretty strong feeling about him, and it's just stay away. So I'm going to switch my meh to Jack Doyle. Not someone I really want. He's serviceable, but just boring. Just plain as vanilla ice cream with no apple crumb to go with it.
He was fantastic with Andrew Luck, and he was second out of all tight ends with Jacoby Brissett last year in receptions.
Yeah, but
Eric Ebron.
Oh yeah,
how far? What did he do
skilled.
with those receptions though?
Yeah, like 74 receptions, didn't he, or something like that?
I had
in front of me.
80.
Yeah, 80. Yeah.
He had 80, but it didn't even go for 700 yards on those 80 targets. So it's like there was the most boring.
Give me
it's like
3 points.
Let Lucas finish.
Run 7 yards, catch the ball, go down. It was, it's what it was.
Hey, PPR stud though. Who's? Give me your tight end.
All right, another unpopular pick, Trey Burton. Trey Burton. Part of the reason why is same reason with Allen Robinson. There's so many guys there. They got Adam Shaheen, they got Trey Burton, they got Allen Robinson, they got Anthony Miller. They got so many guys there, that could pop off. And
so many meh guys.
Yeah, exactly. So Trey Burton's another meh. I mean, they have a meh quarterback. Everything is just meh about this whole team. I don't understand the hype around Trey Burton other than he won a Super Bowl and he threw a touchdown. Other than that, I don't understand it. It's a biggest head scratcher to me. I don't get it.
It's because whenever Zach Ertz would go down, Trey Burton would step in, and it was like the most elite tight end of all his last year would go down, and then another tight end just stepped in, and it was like Ertz wasn't even gone.
Jason, where do you stand on Trey Burton?
Yeah, I actually love Trey Burton this year.
I could tell by your silence.
Yeah, what was just said is very accurate. When when Zach Ertz was gone, he came in and was elite. We're talking top 3 tight end numbers, and that's a 5-game sample, which is small, but you can tell on the film. And then when he gets signed to a big money contract, you have a history of this happening at the tight end position, where guys that are behind another player for the beginning of their careers then sign for another team, and that's when their career really starts. I think he's going to get enough volume, and he is still being drafted late enough where I see him as the last player in a tier of tight ends that I'm happy with, and that's usually who I target because I don't want to draft a tight end high. I want to get him as late as possible, but I still want to get one of the guys that I believe has a potential to be like a top 5 tight end. So that's Trey Burton is kind of my pegged player this year for that role.
As you heard us mention a couple times throughout the show, this year we have 4 Sleeper Wire listener leagues going on. A $25 donation to our GoFundMe page. GoFundMe.com/RobJR gets you an automatic entry to a listener league where the champion gets a signed jersey from PristineAuction.com. Also, as mentioned, we have a great lineup for the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am this year, but instead of doing a raffle like we've done the last few years, we've decided to give out automatic entries to the Pro-Am. One-time $30 donation gets you an automatic entry into the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am this year, so that's a $25 donation for the Listener League and a $30 donation for the Pro-Am, but we're running a deal. For a limited time offer, you can get an automatic entry into both of them, a Listener League and the Pro-Am, with a donation of $50 instead of $55.
Thanks for having me, guys. We're going to be up in Minneapolis here soon on the Fantasy for the People tour. If you want to come see us live, those tickets are almost sold out, but we'll be in Dallas and New York and Philadelphia. So you can go to ballerslive.com or thefantasyfootballers.com. Check us out.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. We really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Yep. You can also follow us on Twitter at SleeperWire Show. You can find me on there at Seymour SleeperWire. Hoos is on there at SleeperWire Hoos, and Lucas is on there. You're not on Twitter, are you?
I just started a new one. It's SleeperWire LBB.
SleeperWire LBB, and we're also on SleeperBot at Professor Chris, Prophet Hus, and SleeperWire LBB, and you can find us on the Fantasy Life app at Professor Chris and Who's the Prophet. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time.
We want to thank you for listening to the Sleeper Wire Show, the most interactive and accessible fantasy sports podcast out there right now. If you want to reach us anytime, you can join our new Facebook group. Just search for Sleeper Wire Fantasy Football Club on the Facebook groups. Join us there. Find us on the Sleeper Wire channel in the SleeperBot app. We're on the Fantasy Life app, and you can go to our webpage, sleeperwire.com. Look for the advice section. You can send us email questions we answer within 24 hours or less. Oh, and lest I forget, we do 2 live shows a week during the season, the Wednesday Mail Sack and the Sunday Morning Blitz, where we answer your questions and take your calls live on the air. So keep in touch with us all year through these ways and more, only on the Sleeper Wire Show.